What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's your girl Jada here, back with another video, and we are back with yet another reality recap and another recap specifically about Love is Blind season 6. So they just released episode 10 and 11 recently, and yeah, it's not shaping up too well. Obviously, the rest of the season was already questionable, but now that we're already getting closer and closer to these weddings, which is probably going to be in the next set of episodes, I am worried. I really am. I don't have faith in any of these couples, to be honest with you. I think the only one that I could probably really see making it is Johnny and Amy, but I am a little worried that they still haven't really argued about anything. I know that doesn't sound great, but it's just like, well, dang. It just seems like the smooth sailing, it's just been going on for a little too long, and I'm waiting for something to happen. It makes me sound like such a negative person, but it's like whenever you see couples that don't ever really argue, you wonder, you know, like what's actually happening. But anyways, we're gonna get to them in a bit. So we already know that in the last couple of episodes, Kenneth and Brittany, they are no longer a thing. So they are one couple that we do not need to discuss. Even though Kenneth really was making me mad, I'm not gonna lie. It was like, why are you here? Like, just admit you came for a vacation, please, Kenneth. Because clearly you did not come for a wife. You did not come for a relationship. The fact that literally just as soon as things slightly hit the fan, it wasn't even like a major argument that you guys are having. You just take anything this woman says about your relationship and how she's not really that connected to you, even though you have been on your phone ever since y'all came out the pods, mind you. Okay, she has been trying. She's been trying to connect with you, but how is she supposed to do that when you're doing this? Every 2 seconds. She can't even talk to you. She can't communicate. How the heck is she supposed to connect with you, Kenneth? So I think he was just waiting for the right time, just waiting for anything that Brittany would have said, and he would have latched onto it and be like, oh yeah, no, because of that, this isn't gonna work. But hey, we could still be friends. Like, come on, man, Kenneth. Really? Just made me really believe that most of these men that come onto this show, don't get me wrong, this season has been, again, a mess, okay? Much like the 5th season. But in terms of younger men specifically, most of them have been disappointing. I'm just like, let's be real, you don't actually want to get married right now. Like, it's like they would say one thing and be like, you know, I'm 25, but, you know, I still want to get married. No, you don't. No, you don't. Your actions and your attitude prove that that's not the case. But anyways, let's get into Clay and AD, all right? So they're still trying to figure out their situation, you know, with regards to them having very different time schedules when they work. AD works at night, Clay mainly in the day. So they're trying to figure out how to actually be with each other, how to make the time, right? So it seems like they're kind of starting to learn that. They're spending a little bit more time with each other. But Clay, you could tell, is still very much so regimented in being by himself and like working all the time. So I think he's still trying to figure out that balance. But when it comes to him specifically, I am really worried because AD does seem committed. She even introduces Clay to her mom, and you could see that she is so smitten with this man. And apparently she even told her mom that she finally found someone that she could follow, that could lead, right? And I'm like, I mean, okay, if you say so. You know, I haven't really seen that much in terms of actions on Clay's part to prove that, but there's a lot of things that we don't see in terms of filming that maybe happens. So maybe she saw something that we didn't. You know, I'm like, okay, sure. You could tell that she is definitely head over heels in love with Clay. But Clay is worrying me because he keeps bringing up the fact that his parents got a divorce because his dad cheated. And he keeps bringing up that he doesn't want to let AD down, and also that he doesn't want to find himself in a similar situation to that of his dad where he cheats on AD. And I'm just like, why is that even on your mind? Just don't put yourself in that situation. Duh. You know, it doesn't make any sense. It really is worrying. And you could tell based on how AD would react sometimes when he would bring it up just randomly in conversations, because he's brought it up a lot, like a hell of a lot. You could tell it's really weighing on his mind, and that's what he's constantly thinking about. So when AD would hear this, it would definitely be like a little bit of a red flag to her, because it's just like, well, what do you mean, right? So I am a little bit concerned. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm very concerned about them. I'm not too sure how this is going to go. They're already picking out colors for the wedding, and you know, in terms of bridesmaids and all that stuff, they got that together. But yeah, it's a little worrying, I'm not gonna lie. But let's move on to Jeremy and Laura. So I think it was in the last episode, I think that might have been episode 9. Jeremy tried to convince Laura that he was only talking to Sarah Ann, who was another woman in the pods that was a part of Jeremy's little love triangle. He couldn't really decide between the two, but in the end, he ends up picking Laura. But Sarah Ann, she messages him, DMs him, and just like, if there's ever a moment where, you know, things are open, you know, like if you feel as though you didn't really make the right decision, you know, I'm here. I would love to get to know you. Wink, wink, right? I'm like, yeah, okay, Sarah Ann, that was an opportunity for you to just be like, you know, congratulations and move on with your life. Okay. If he wants to make that decision to pursue you, then okay. But don't be giving him no lingering advances. Like, anyway, so apparently that door was not closed all the way because Jeremy ends up meeting up with her. They talk until 5 in the morning. Okay, supposedly at the parking lot of this restaurant that he just happened to see her at. Okay, happened to see her. They talk till 5 in the morning. He's still, according to him, sending his location to Laura. Not supposed to put her at ease, even though you're out until 5 in the morning. But you sending me the location is all that I need to be calm and be at peace. Okay, Jeremy, okay. He then decides to take, according to him, he decides to take her from the parking lot because he realizes how late it is, and he takes her to her house. And that's how, according to him, how he ended up at Sarah Ann's house, because she, Laura, does see that his location pinged at her house. So yeah, it's just definitely a lose-lose situation when it comes to Jeremy, because again, why aren't you home? Why are you out until 5 in the morning talking to a female who is not your fiance? What are you doing? It's kind of like it doesn't even matter what he had said because it doesn't sound good. Okay, him saying that he was just out talking to a woman is already strange, because it's just kind of like, until 5 in the morning, what the heck were y'all talking about? What connection y'all got? Laura is your fiance, not Sarah Ann. So what could y'all be connecting about? What could y'all be talking for hours about? And then on top of that, if it was the other thing that we're already probably thinking about, if he actually smashed and dashed, like, that's just as bad. So either way, it's a lose-lose situation. And ever since then, Laura had not spoken to Jeremy. Apparently, Jeremy was trying to get in contact with her, trying to send her flowers. But I'm like, sir, flowers? How do you think you're going to rectify this situation with some flowers? But anyways, clearly you could see in terms of the attitude department and personalities that Jeremy and Laura are very, very different. And not in a different that like they attract each other, in a different that they repel each other. That type of different. And I think because Laura is so like okay with being confrontational and talking about it right then and there, but Jeremy isn't, that's why their relationship would have never worked. So when Jeremy and Laura meet up at this supposed group party, they meet all the rest of these cast members, some of them for the first time because they never seen each other, right? They meet up, Jeremy sees Laura, they decide to talk, and Laura, you could tell, has had it. She is done with this man because she just starts going off on him, and it's understandable, but at the same time, at some point, you need to let him talk, sis. Let him get what he wants to get out. Because Jeremy is the type of person to shut down as soon as there is any type of animosity that he feels is coming from you in his direction. Seems very soft in that way, because literally any type of confrontation, he does not want to deal with it. Even if you raise your voice like a half of an octave, he's already shutting down. He doesn't want to talk. So yeah, I think that it was just something that was bound to happen, them ending this relationship. Laura decides to walk away, and Jeremy somehow finds Sarah Ann, or Sarah Ann finds him. I don't know. I can't remember. But either way, they decide they want to start talking, because apparently AD had already spoken to Sarah Ann. She pulled her aside and was basically giving her the business. All right. Like, she was like, listen, This does not look good, Sarah. I don't care how you spin it. It does not look good, does not sound good. And you're looking a little floozy-ish. Of course, she didn't say that, but that's how it comes across. Like you are the side piece. You are the other woman getting in between Laura and Jeremy, right? And she did. That's exactly what she looked like. It doesn't really matter how she spins it. The fact that she tried to open the door a little bit with her connection with Jeremy, I just think that it's something that should have happened on its own. And Sarah Ann just needed to let their relationship, if it was going to end, which it probably would have, like I said, because their personalities are so different, Laura and Jeremy more than likely would have had their relationship run its course without you helping. Either way, AD is my hero because she calls Sarah out on her BS because it was BS, let's be honest. But you could definitely tell that Sarah was like not really interested in having that conversation. She believes she is the good person. She believes she's a nice person and that what she did is not a problem. She sees no issues with it. And I'm just like, girl, how? But anyways, she brings that up to Jeremy and, you know, how she felt about that conversation with AD. And Jeremy's just like, well, you already know that I just feel like I made a major mistake clearly in the pods picking Laura. I should have picked you. I mean, he didn't really say that last part, but that's pretty much what he was saying. These mofos decide in that moment, while Laura could pretty much see them, okay, clear as day, everyone could see them. They go on these jet skis and they're having the time of their life. They're having a blast, just riding around this lake or whatever body of water it was. And I'm just like, wow, that scene was so wild. Literally, Sarah is doing her interview about not wanting to see Jeremy ever again and that he was just the worst mistake of her life. In the background, you could see Sarah and Jeremy on these jet skis laughing and having a ball. Y'all, I almost passed out. I was like, who shot this? Who shot this? Whose idea was this? That was the funniest and saddest thing I have ever seen on Love is Blind. Like, oh my god, that was bad. But anyways, Jeremy and Laura are no longer a thing. But honestly, Jeremy is the type of person, I don't think he's even going to be in a relationship with Sarah Ann at the end of the day. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And I'll admit to it if I see them actually still together at this reunion. But regardless, I just don't see Jeremy being with anyone. I think he's just here to have a good time. He's here for a good time, not a long time. Okay, so yeah, I think Jeremy needs to probably be by himself. Apparently also, I found out that he and Trevor were actually engaged. Like, not them together, like engaged to each other, but they both came into the Love is Blind casting already engaged. They had fiancés before they came on this show. And possibly while they were on the show. Y'all, I can't. I can't. Be here looking at Jimmy like the bad guy, but Trevor and Jeremy just over here chilling, knowing good and darn well that they got fiancés at home and trying to literally be on a TV show to find another love life. Wild. Anyways, now let's move on to Jimmy and Chelsea. Jimmy! I don't know why he wasting this girl time. I think it was in the very last episode that he called Chelsea clingy. And don't get me wrong, I think he does have a point. I really do think Chelsea is very clingy. However, I do think that Jimmy is not that great of a partner either. It sounds as though he's home a good bit of the time and they do hang out a lot. However, it does sound like when they do hang out and they are together, Jimmy don't really want to be there. Jimmy is somewhere else in his brain and he's just very detached from this relationship, and you could even see that play out in actuality. But anyways, regardless, I think the next day they have a chat about it. They seem to be okay. They seem to be good. Then I think Jimmy introduces her to his family. They seem to like her as well. But I don't know if Jimmy likes her. I don't think Jimmy is actually in love with this woman. I think just him seeing her alone and y'all seeing that reaction that he had when he was hugging her, I think that said it all. I don't think any relationship has been building ever since he saw her, thought she was gonna look like how she said she was gonna look, which a lot of people said she looked like Megan Fox, apparently, according to her. But I mean, I don't really see it. Okay, but you know, it is what it is. So I think he was expecting that. He was expecting Megan Fox and was very disappointed. In the next scene, after meeting his parents, he's just having, you know, a chill night with her on this terrace or patio, whatever you want to call it. He's just like, you know, it was a pretty big deal for you to meet my parents. It's very important to me. I love the fact that it went okay. And he is just having some positive vibe going on, right? Chelsea ruins that. So she brings up into the conversation that he was, I guess, gone the night before. He didn't come home until really late. And they start discussing how he was going to this party. He says he was only out for like 3 hours or so because it was a friend's birthday party. So he just wanted to show his face. And Chelsea is just like, well, I don't want a partner like that. I don't want a partner that's going to be out and goes out drinking. And I'm just like, I mean, this man can't leave the house. Like, it was, like I said, it was clingy. It literally gave me flashbacks to when he called her clingy, because I was like, eee, Chelsea, this is not a good look, sis. I can understand if this man was out for several hours, like Jeremy was when he didn't come home until 5 in the morning. I can understand you being mad at that. But if this man literally just went to show his face, have a couple drinks at a bar, go to his friend's little birthday get together, 3 hours max, he comes right back home to you. Why is this a problem? It's like, would you have wanted him to take you? Is that it? Like, you could just tell him that, you know? But if that's not your thing, I just don't understand why he can't go, why he can't have fun. It's not. Yeah, so it was like I wanted to understand Chelsea, but in that moment I was like, I might be on Jimmy's side with this one, because you're being a little delusional. Like, this man can't go out and have fun with his friends. Okay. She's saying also that her friends and also people from the show would see him out and about having fun and basically without her. And I'm like, okay, I mean, is he supposed to go out with you all the time? Like, who are these people reporting? So again, I think the communication, it's like, girl, if you want to go, just tell him that. If you want to be there, just tell him that. It's like, at the same time, why can't he just go out with his friends? But another issue that they seem to be having is with Jimmy's friends who are women. Okay, his female friends. Chelsea, is not comfortable with that, which I thought was pretty interesting, considering that she went to meet up with them. At least 2 of them. I don't know if there's more, but 2 of them were there and they seemed to be okay with each other. But I guess Chelsea, in the back of her mind, wasn't comfortable with it still. But Jimmy is just like, you know, if you feel uncomfortable, just let me know. But you haven't said anything. When Chelsea actually says that, yes, it makes me uncomfortable, I've said to you several times that it makes me uncomfortable, Jimmy's just like, well, you haven't said that you want me to pull back from that relationship or that friendship. And then he says, you haven't asked me. And then Chelsea's just like, well, I kind of want you to pull back. And then Jimmy, being his petty and juvenile self, says to Chelsea, well, I don't want to pull back right now. That's not something I want to do. I'm just like, y'all, oh my gosh, this man is so like, bro, this was so frustrating watching this argument happen, because I have issues with both of them and how they went about this discussion. Because clearly you could see that Jimmy was getting kind of irritated because Chelsea, again, being her usual clingy and emotional self, not really understanding where he's coming from. Then when it comes to Chelsea trying to explain to Jimmy why she's uncomfortable with this relationship, because we find out also that Jimmy had smashed one of his friends. He had sex with one of his girlfriends. I'm just like, buddy, I can understand why she's uncomfortable. I would be uncomfortable too. I would already be feeling kind of iffy about him having female friends, but I'll, you know, try to be okay with it because they're probably friends with each other from way before I even came into the picture. But at the same time, you have to make sure you set boundaries in those relationships. Definitive lines in the sand with those relationships, because it could easily get a little muddled and a little gray when you don't actually tell them like what's allowed and not allowed and what makes your partner comfortable and not comfortable. it's frustrating watching Chelsea try to explain that to Jimmy. And Jimmy's just like, well, I don't care. I don't care how you feel. It is what it is. You're just going to have to accept it. And both of them, it's really irritating. But eventually Jimmy, I think, just ends up leaving and he goes to his apartment, I believe. And I think a couple days later, they end up meeting back up and try to talk it through. And they end up going on a date basically to, I think, Carowinds or something. I think that's the amusement park in North Carolina, in Charlotte. And they are having a good time. At the same time, what gets me is that Jimmy, you know, he knows that the deadline is getting closer and possibly getting married in real life. There's a potential that happening. But at the same time, they have so many issues. And you can tell that Jimmy, again, is not sure at all. He even said to her that I'm just not sure about this. Like, I don't know if I could do this. Several times. And I'm just like, okay, but then what gets me is that you are still telling her that you 100% think that you made the right decision with choosing her. So I'm not understanding Jimmy. I'm really not. So yeah, it's really funny when he brings up to her in terms of her possible answer, how they haven't discussed it yet, what they would say at the altar. I'm like, y'all don't need to get married. You really don't. But let's move on to the last couple. We have Johnny and Amy. I spoke about them a little bit in the beginning, but it looks as though they're still talking about not having kids right now and what they could do to prevent it. But I'm trying to figure out what Amy's issue is with birth control and why Johnny had to look into such a drastic method of not having kids, which was getting a vasectomy. I'm like, why is Johnny looking into getting a vasectomy? Like, what? It's like, do you understand how that most of the time cannot be reversed? Like, I just, you know? So that was kind of weird that he went straight to vasectomy. I was like, well, what have y'all been talking about? Like, huh? So Amy is possibly looking into taking birth control, but I'm trying to figure out what her aversion is to that. Because I personally would want to take it into my hands in terms of protecting myself in that way, in terms of preventing any like pregnancy that I have not planned from happening. I would definitely want to make sure that, you know, that is planned out accordingly and I don't have no mishaps. That's just me. Obviously, she could do whatever she wants with her body. But at the same time, I'm just saying, if you guys are so certain that y'all don't want kids right now, I would have already made the appointment to go see my gynecologist and be like, hey, what do you suggest? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying. But at the same time, I have heard about the male version of birth control. I think it's kind of like a pill as well. But the thing is, I don't know about the efficiency in terms of how well it works. Okay, so I'm not too sure about that. But either way, they're definitely going to have to figure that one out, or else they're just going to have some surprise babies. Whichever. Okay. But yeah, they don't really have much in terms of things to talk about. They have been literally, like Chelsea has said, Chelsea said that in front of Jimmy too. It was funny. But Chelsea said that they are pretty much the only couple that, for the most part, nothing's been happening and they are like the golden child. They're golden couple pretty much. And I'm just like, yeah, because the rest of y'all, I don't know what's going on. But I am, again, like I said already, I'm a little worried that they haven't really had any major arguments yet and nothing's really happened and they haven't really had to deal with anything crazy to really see how they work together to, I guess, work through these issues. So I am a little worried about that in terms of conflict resolution and how they work together to solve conflict. But y'all let me know your thoughts on this one down in the comments. I'll catch you guys in the next one for the next set of episodes. Peace.